Good morning and welcome to Local Business Focus. I'm Sally Barker. Joining us on the show today is Peter Trenaman from Groupsupport, proud station sponsor. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Sally. How are you this morning?
I'm well, thank you.
Excellent. Good to hear. You, we spoke about last week about the double-edged sword of IT, bringing your own devices and things. I've got to admit, this week I'm feeling the effects of that. It bit me a couple of times during the week with people overstepping the boundaries.
Oh, no.
That's what they try to do, isn't it? They try to get their own way.
Well, they do. So how so? Trying to get around what you put in place?
Absolutely, all the time. It's all about rules and expectations and making sure that you're setting the right expectation. Feeling a bit jaded this at the moment. But
I'm sure you've learnt a lot from it, though.
Oh, all the time. The IT industry is one of those industries where if you're not learning, then you're dead. There's no...
Well, that can be said for generally,
Absolutely.
in life,
well,
you know.
Yes and no. I mean, I don't see the same pressing need to learn so much in brickwork or carpentry or art is different because there's always new ways of cutting it, doing things and new designs and new processes or new thoughts. Some of the basic things that we depend upon, driving, for instance, it's fairly steady and stable.
Yes.
Sit behind a wheel or not. That's the new things. And that's what we're talking about today, actually. That's a good segue, thank you.
Yes.
We're speaking about 2050 and beyond. What do we expect in 2050?
See, I remember growing up and always watching Beyond 2000.
Absolutely. Well, it's way beyond 2000
It really
now.
is, isn't it?
Today we're talking, in the news, there are driverless buses in test on the road already. Who would have thought? Even in 2000, it was a future dream, it was a pipe dream. Things are happening so fast nowadays, and change is happening faster the more we go on, because there's more people concentrating on doing new things and doing new things with the things that are new, if that makes sense. So the pace of technology change is increasing. There's a pushback though. Quite a lot of people are pushing back and wanting some clean space, some clean time, so that they don't get involved in technology, or the technology has to be subverted, has to be discreet, has to be unseen. So it can't be in your face. It can't be taking over from the human personality, the bit that makes us the spark. One of the things that we spoke about several weeks ago was planning to go to Peru. The efforts you make to actually put a forward plan in place. And my question this week is, as you look to the future, what plans are you putting in place and what allowances are you making for the future and the things that it holds? We've spoken about 3D printers.
Yes.
The idea that you can already do things like print an ear or a kneecap or a piece of bone as a replacement for something you're missing or has been damaged in your body. You can make replacement parts for your car. You can make replacement parts for printers and devices. At the moment, the source material doesn't stand up as far as strength or tensile, engineering is the word I was looking for. But that's to come. That will come in time, because things are improving all the time in regards to the media that is used within the 3D printers. But what is happening? What would you think would happen in 20 years' time? If you imagine what's happened in the last 2, or if you imagine that the kids nowadays, if you imagine a 10-year-old, doesn't actually know what a CD is, would only know what a record player is if their parents are old school. If you have a 10-year-old who's the son or daughter of a 17, 18, 19-year-old, or when they were born, they were 17, 18, 19.
Yeah, I was just trying to work out the math there.
So that's 30 years. That means that cassettes would have been gone. They would have always known about space. The internet was always on. Do you imagine? The changes are unbelievable. And we take a lot of it for granted, and we don't think about the changes that have happened. And some of it's because it's too scary. One of the objectives of the 2050 team, if you explore on the internet 2050, you'll see that one of the objectives is to virtualize a human. Sounds funny, sounds weird. Imagine putting a human spirit into a body that could live forever, or that could be replaceable so that it could survive forever. It takes a different meaning of life. For the people who are disabled or the people who have been injured, that's such a promise, such a release to actually be able-bodied. Although I've got to say, a lot of the people who have disabilities or injuries are actually better people in my mind, because they've got that change in their human spirit where humility brings a lot. And the ability to accept your limitations means that you do other things. And sometimes that richness provides that depth to community that we need. But focusing back on technology for a moment, or philosophizing, whatever the word is, too much, sorry. We've in the last 3 to 4 years, we've gone from having tablets which are clunky to tablets which are sleek. I'm using one right now. The machine I've got right in front of me is more powerful than my laptop from 5 years ago.
Really?
Absolutely. My phone has more memory and more capability on it than my desktop machine 10 years ago. We're not even going to compare it versus my first machine.
No.
So what's going to happen in the next 30 years? Are we going to have, in Total Recall, the movie where Arnold Schwarzenegger went to Mars, and Sharon Stone, as she's chasing him around, rings on her hand phone, holds her hand to her face and makes a phone call. How good is that? How scary is it?
Yeah.
Currently they're exploring the idea that you have an ID chip that's embedded in the webbing between your thumb and your first finger. So how do you turn that off? Where do you make it so it's not available to scan? Currently, if you've got a credit card, you can put it in your pocket and it won't get scanned. But how do you stop a chip? It means that you are constantly trackable. Now already we have invasions of privacy. We spoke about invasions of privacy with drones some time ago, new technology. Invasions of privacy on the net, where people are not obeying the rules of common decency or following people, advertising companies are tracking you. There's more and more sophistication in marketing and making marketing easier for the bigger companies. The question is, where does it stop? And the answer is it doesn't. But what needs to happen is you need to make some sensible decisions about what's appropriate for you. There will always be those people who want to attach a computer to their head or surgically implant it.
Yeah.
That's scary to me.
Yes.
I want to be able to have. I'm involved in tech every day, and I want to have a time off.
You want to switch off?
Absolutely. I go bush. I do road gaining. I get out of the metro area. I go country.
Yeah. No
signal, in the bush with a map and a compass. Old school. It's a release. It's also exercising for an old bloke like me. It's something that's exciting and adventurous. The exciting and adventurous cutting-edge new technology involves miniaturization to such an extent that we can have nano cameras, nanobots, nano robots, and nano stands for 9. It's 10 to the minus 9th meters thick.
Right.
So if you imagine a meter and 1,000th of a millimeter, 1,000th of a meter is a millimeter. 1,000th of a millimeter is a micrometer, and 1,000th of a micrometer is a nanometer.
So it's pretty tiny.
Really tiny. So someone with bad eyesight won't be able to see it.
Right.
But it can go in your bloodstream.
Yes.
It can go in your body. It can go in the air. You can breathe it. So what do you do with these things? Well, who knows? I don't. But it's new technology, and things are progressing to such an extent And what I would urge people is not to be scared of it, because there will always be new things and stuff that's going on. Be cognizant, be aware, talk to people about it and make the choice. So you're deliberately choosing not to engage in some part of it, not because you're not aware of it, but because you've chosen. So don't let life just sort of pass you by, spring on you this new technology and you're taken by surprise and it's forced. Some things you can't escape, but some things you do. You can, by choice, you can exclude yourself. Now, whether that's for your mental safety, and we spoke about Twitter being part of a pilot program to provide tools to people who can't cope with the massive amount of information because they get depressed. New technology should come with these sort of warning labels, or at least some tools to work it through and to accommodate the impacts. You'll never get those if you don't have someone nearby and someone that's close to you to talk about these things with you who knows. Someone, a guru.
Yeah, I think you do need to know it. You need to have that. I mean, I do have friends and they won't go on the internet. They've got email addresses each. They're both professional people, but won't have a bar of Facebook or anything like that. The problem, I say to them, is you've got an almost 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. You're not going to have any idea what they're doing.
That's right.
Yes, so you need to be on top of what's happening, even if you don't want to, because if you've got children, you have to be able to protect them.
Well, out of respect for their growth, their communication, their personalities, they're part of the world. And in order to be and react, in order to be part of a group, to be reacting and interacting with their peers, they need to do what their peers do. Now, I'm not saying they need to follow all the moral codes of the peers, but they still need to participate in community and society. They need to do so with the freedom and endorsement of their parents, because otherwise there's that guilt complex, that line where it creates a separation in the relationship, and that's not good for anybody.
No, I remember growing up and, all my friends were phoning each other all the time. We weren't allowed to use the phone. And I remember the time I was allowed to actually use the phone. It was, whoa, I can call a friend.
You look as if you've recovered nicely from that scarring experience.
I know. I was going, why? Everyone else uses the phone.
One of the reasons that we have clean bedrooms, as in electronic-free bedrooms, is because the lines aren't clearly drawn for other people.
Right.
Okay, so my kids have friends who want to phone them at 10:30 at night. And my kids are in bed.
Well, they should be asleep.
Well, that's a different matter. But the idea of creating a safe haven for them to sleep so that they aren't getting interrupted is important. That doesn't mean they're not allowed to use their phones, but when it's appropriate. Now, I'm into tech, so I understand all these things, or a lot of these things, and I'm keen to find out the new things. I don't want to accept all of them. It's important to be able to disconnect at some point.
Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
It's the balance.
Giving you that time to really switch off.
That's right. And we've spoken about that with business. We've spoken about that with having a healthy attitude, relaxing, doing exercise. New technology will always find new ways of actually reaching a level platform and that's accommodated and accepted within society. We have to be aware of these things. We have to understand what they're doing and choose how far we immerse ourselves in them, not just be swept along with them. So it's an interesting conversation, and one that's going to go for years and years.
Yes.
2050 is not too far away.
No.
So stand by and keep your eyes open.
So wait for the show.
Thank you.
Beyond 2050. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Local Business Focus. Peter Trenaman from Groupsupport, proud station sponsor.
Thanks for having me.